For all of you who listen to Submersion and own an Android device, go to the Google Play Store and download the Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all of your favorite podcasts directly on your Android device. I personally use the app and I love it. I can search for the podcast I want to listen to, select it as a favorite, and have it just a click away. Make sure you select Submersion as a favorite so you don't miss any of our new episodes every Thursday. Again, the app is the Podcast Republic app, available on Android devices. Episode 90.
Woo! 90. Give me the news. It's the 90 episode of Submersion.
Nice.
Oh,
wow.
Did you just come up with
The
that?
flow
I
is
did.
unreal.
I'm somewhat a creative man.
No.
That's why they call
I
me
believe
Jake
that.
Gyllenhaal.
You're something.
That's the big surprise, actually. Episode 90, it is unveiled that Zach has, in fact, been Jake Gyllenhaal this entire time.
Hello. Wait.
Okay, good. Wow.
Oh,
Did he step in
Jake.
here and is Jake Gyllenhaal in the room?
Kyle, did you say big secret?
I did. Big secret.
The big secret is Godzilla.
Oh! And that's no big secret. We are in the second week of Godzilla Movie Month, and based on the underwhelming response from my social media post on people guessing what movie we watched based on a Sony boombox, people might not know what the heck we watched.
Do we know?
Do we really even know what we watched? It's a good question.
Someone tag team and jump in.
Yeah, somebody do anything. All right, Zach went out on his own into the wilderness and was able to secure something pretty amazing for this episode.
I did, Kyle. I ventured across land. Okay. I found somebody named TitanGoji when I was looking up reviews for some Godzilla films. And I found this guy, on Instagram, messaged him, asked him if he wanted to, do an interview. Come on. And he said yes. So I would say my opinion on him is that he is a deep sea of knowledge of Godzilla and kaiju films and anime alike.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So,
And he's got his own YouTube channel, right, where he goes and discusses different kaiju films.
yeah, he has
if I'm
a
not mistaken.
very large YouTube channel, a lot of great videos on tons of Godzilla and Godzilla history. He talks about all this in the interview. We talk about this film, Godzilla 1984/85. He brings up a couple points about King Kong versus Godzilla, and then we kind of get off track a little bit, but it's all related. So.
That's really weird because usually we're pretty on track.
We're way on track.
I don't know what you would have done that would have got anybody off track.
Yeah, we never say anything wrong or untrue on this podcast either.
It's all a fact.
It's all facts, and everything I say happens in the movie actually happened in the movie.
There we go. And that will be literally in the middle of this episode. You guys don't even have to skip past all our boring stuff this time. We're going to put it really soon. So
Just
get
wait.
ready.
You can even just skip.
Dave!
Time to submerge sideways.
Go Godzilla, go Godzilla. Godzilla's in your house, Godzilla's in my house. He's gonna get you right, you go to sleep. Godzilla drives a Lambo, you know he ain't cheap. Go, what you doing now? Evening in Tokyo, burn it to the ground. Fighting King Kong and you fighting Mothra. Fight the whole world, you're Godzilla. And they're gonna fall. They're all gonna bow to the king of monsters. Cause you're Godzilla, y'all. Cause you're Godzilla, y'all. Go Godzilla, go Godzilla. Go Godzilla, go Godzilla.
Kyle, I absolutely love that
It's great.
so much.
It's literally Jack
Scream
Black.
at the end.
Jack Black.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy.
It's funny. I showed that to my wife in the car. She was trapped with me. I was like, "Hey, check this out." And I basically told her that I am a poor man's Jack Black. And then when it ended, I was like, what do you think of the lightning strike at the end? She's like, I don't get it. It doesn't mix. It doesn't go with the rest of it at all.
Right.
Come on. I recorded that lightning strike from my garage. Like when there was a big storm in the summer, I was out there with this little hand recorder.
Wait,
I
that's
was
a
like,
real lightning strike sound?
Yeah, that is
amazing.
from my garage.
A musical genius.
Wow.
Actually, that's another big secret about this is that Zach is Jake Gyllenhaal and you are Jack Black.
Wonder what you two are.
Ooh.
Maybe.
Well,
I'm Jamie.
Only time will tell. Jamie from the Progressive commercials?
Yeah. Right, so
right.
actually, I should be clear. I am not Jamie from the Progressive commercial.
Because people may have thought that you were.
No, yeah, and I don't want him to come after us with lawyers.
good call.
Yeah.
So, 3 minutes, 30 seconds?
Wait, are we starting it now?
So
We can.
we're going to do something a little new here tonight, whenever you're listening.
In bed.
Here, now. Ooh. Yes. You listen to us in bed. Kudos to you. I don't know what to say about that. But Zach and TitanGoji go over quite a bit of the movie in the interview. So we don't want to double dip and give Jamie too much of an opportunity here to step all over your toes. So Jamie has a very limited time frame to recap this movie and insert his usual stuff, if you know what I mean. We are giving him 3 minutes and 30 seconds to recap this film.
Don't start it
You
yet.
ready?
No. I got to take a sip of my kombucha, my booch, as the kids say.
I was going to say, this is like the, for the listeners, this is like the TLDR version.
Right.
Get
okay.
it?
I think I'm ready. So this is Return of Godzilla, a.k.a. Godzilla 1984, a.k.a. Godzilla 1985.
Perfect.
All right. 1, 2, 3, go.
We open and we're on a Japanese fishing vessel and there's a guy on there and he's like, whoa, this is like a major storm. And they're like, oh shit, we're going towards that island. Not an island. Turns out Godzilla. And there's lightning everywhere and he's getting powered by the lightning. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second. I thought he was like, couldn't do lightning. That was what I heard in Godzilla versus King Kong, but I was wrong. And so anyways, they get all like wrecked and shit, and some other guys just sailing around, listening to some bip-bopping tunes, and he sees this fishing vessel and was like, what the fuck? And he jumps on there, and there are monsters everywhere, like these big like lices, and he finds one person alive. He's like, let's get out of here. Brings him to a hospital, and the government like takes him away. And his newspaper editor's like, we can't publish any of this. And he's like, it was fucking Godzilla. The guy said Godzilla. And he was like, no, we can't say it. So he runs off and talks to his editor, and his editor's like, the government's like keeping this super duper secret. She's like, what the fuck? So he goes over and he's trying to like dig around and stuff like that. He realizes that like the scientist, there's this like a sister of the guy who was on the boat is there. And he's like, whoa, do you know your brother was like found Godzilla? And she's like, what? And so he takes her over to see this guy. And they like reunited, and the government's like, we can't tell anyone. We don't want to like create a panic. Unfortunately, Godzilla's out there, sees a submarine, totally bones this Russian submarine right as the captain pulls out his captain dick and is like, whoa, no, and it like explodes. And then they're like, well, we can't keep the secret anymore because Russia's like, America did it. And America's like, no, we didn't. And they're going to go to war. So Japan's like, no, Godzilla did it. And so everyone's now freaking out and they're like, we're going to nuke Godzilla. This is like Russia and America. And they're like, and Japan's like, slow your roll, don't nuke us. And while nuking Godzilla, we're just going to like wait for it. All of a sudden, Godzilla's heading towards Tokyo, or heading towards to get some like munch on some nuclear reactors. While there, the scientist is looking at him munching on the reactors. It's like, that was weird. He was going nuts all over this nuclear reactor. Then there was a bunch of birds and he got like all distracted. That's weird. And they're like, oh, he must be, because he's like related to birds, he must go after their migratory network. So now they got a big idea for the next time he attacks. He goes back out to sea, eventually comes back, going into Tokyo Bay. He goes around, he's stumbling and bumbling all over Tokyo, falling into buildings and shit, eating trains, looking at people. People are still everywhere. I don't know why. The scientists and stuff, they're trying to set up this network. They realize it's going to work, but Godzilla's totally like owned them. So they need to get like a helicopter to pick them up. Meanwhile, there's like a special weapon called Super X, and it starts shooting cadmium bullets at Godzilla. And you think, whoa, Godzilla just died. You think we're expecting to say the end on the screen. Not the case. Godzilla's just kind of sleeping in a building. And then they get rescued, go away. Godzilla wakes up again, destroys the Super X machine, destroys a bunch of other people, including this kind of hilarious homeless man who's also a drunk. And the guy and the sister, they're going to totally bone. And they kind of let the scientist and the other guy go off to the island while they are probably having sex and escaping from Godzilla. And then they lure Godzilla over to this island, this volcanic island, using the bird migratory calls. Godzilla walks over there like a total dope. He's looking at this building that's like shooting these things into his face.
10 seconds.
The bird network. And he's like, I could either go around the rim of this volcano or jump straight into it. He's like, you know what? I'm going to jump straight into this volcano. He jumps in. They set off a new volcanic eruption.
Time.
Gets buried.
Time. There you go.
The end.
Wow.
Beautiful, Jamie.
You did it.
Under the wire.
Did you practice that, or did you just do that live?
That was off the cuff. I'm powered by Booch. I'm powered by kombucha right now. Not
Very
a sponsor.
impressive. Very impressive.
Wow. I look at you in a whole new light now, Jamie.
Thank you.
It's as if it was born again. But not.
Well, I guess that really changes things for future episodes, right?
No.
Makes you wonder about the last 89. No.
Did we really need all that for 89?
It would be fun to try to do it, but no. I like doing the longer ones because then I get to talk more and I get to listen to myself talk when I re-listen to these episodes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Odd thing to say. All right. Well, now, Zach, is there anything you want to say before this interview kicks off?
Yeah, absolutely. I hope everybody enjoys it. I hope you look up TitanGoji, look at some of his stuff. He's a great guy. We hope to have him on again sometime. And if you're sitting there with your finger on your cell phone, stop, because you're not going to skip this interview. You know why? Because that is the only place you're going to get some of the answers to questions like Ben asking, who is Godzilla's deadliest foe? When Alex asked, who would win, an army of cats or Godzilla? When Jamie asked, is Bowser actually Godzilla? And when Kyle asked what his favorite Godzilla movie is and what his favorite foe is. So if you want those answers to those fabulous questions, I'm not going to tell you. You got to stay tuned. Remember, submersion.
At Mac East Studios, sometimes we don't have all the answers. In dire times like this, we've decided to call in the very best. Welcome to an interview with an expert.
All right, listeners, this is Zach coming in with a new special interview, and I am here with TitanGoji.
Hello, everyone. As he has mentioned, my name is TitanGoji. I have a YouTube channel where I pretty much talk about Japanese monster films, mostly Godzilla-related stuff. I've also kind of been trying to expand my boundaries when it comes to what sort of content I want to produce. I recently made a video on the first 3 live-action Transformers films, and I also made a review for the film Akira. So it's mainly Japanese related stuff, but it's been mostly Godzilla.
Okay. Yeah, and that's how I I guess discovered you. We were starting this new Godzilla month, and I was looking up some videos, some reviews of some of these Godzilla movies that we were going to watch, and I stumbled across your channel, found you on Twitter, found you on Instagram. So
sweet.
Love what I see. Love what I've watched.
I would assume you found me through the History of Godzilla review series that I did through the entirety of May.
Yes.
All right. because I pretty much just uploaded a review every single day throughout that month. I pretty much covered not only every Godzilla movie, but some non-Godzilla movies as well. So there's Mothra, Rodan, War of the Gargantuas, and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's pretty much I kind of went down the rabbit hole, as they say, and started going through a bunch of those.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what Godzilla can do to you. Once you start, you can't stop.
But it's exciting, and then so. And I'm really glad you're here, and thanks again. So
no problem. I mean, I'm glad I'm here too.
Yeah, and this is good to kind of more of I guess you could say a specialist. So listeners, as you know, Kyle and I are the only two that grew up with grew up watching Godzilla films, and Alex, Jamie, and Ben are all new to it, so I guess you could say they're kind of critical of what we're watching right now.
All right.
So Titan, can you tell us about, I guess, how you got into Godzilla, and did you grow up watching them? What are your thoughts?
Oh, okay. So first time I was introduced to Godzilla was through Godzilla Save the Earth on PlayStation 2. My dad got it for me and my older brothers, and I'll tell you what, we played the hell out of it. My main was always Godzilla 2000. My brothers were always like Gigan and Rodan. And then my dad told us about the Godzilla movie series. Because that was our first exposure to Godzilla. We had no idea there was like this entire like established film franchise. So we pretty much go to the mall the next day for some Godzilla movies, and and we got that one classic media Godzilla set. I can't remember if it was 2002 or 2004 when it originally came out, but it came with a good number of Showa films. And my first Godzilla movie I ever watched was Terror of Mechagodzilla, which I think is easily one of the best in the entire series. Like it's a top 10 for me.
Oh, nice.
And ever since I've invested myself into this like massive franchise so much. Like I pretty much made a YouTube channel dedicated to it. So there you have it.
And that's interesting to hear that it kind of all started off with a video game for you.
Oh yeah, that like almost never happens.
Yeah. So, and I'm trying to remember, because when I was growing up, I had some of those Godzilla games. Is that the one that it was just like 1v1 monsters in the cities?
Well, it can be 1 versus 1. I mean, it can also be 2 versus 2, or 1 against 3, 3 against 1, and yeah, there are like all of these stages that are supposed to replicate like major cities like Tokyo, New York, London, and you can also destroy those cities if you want to, which made it even more fun.
Yeah, I know. So I got into Godzilla back just growing up with my dad. They'd be on TV and he'd have me watch them. And as a kid, I didn't really care about the dialogue all that much. I was just like, oh, look at these giant monsters fighting each other. This is fun. This is cool.
Yeah. It's pretty much all it was about. Like when you're young, like you're just there to see Godzilla and I guess Megalon and Jet Jaguar. Yeah. I mean, you didn't really care about the humans as much at the time because again, you're still a little kid. You're more attracted to like these sort of like fantastical like creatures. I mean, I'm sure like every kid like had this sort of like attachment to like fantasy creatures like when they're young. Like dragons, dinosaurs, and also feel like that's kind of like what helped Godzilla become like so like enrooted in some people's childhoods.
Absolutely. So Titan, you mentioned you got a box set from the Showa era, correct?
Yeah, it's okay. So it's this box set. It's from Classic Media. It was like an early 2000s box set. It came with Godzilla King of the Monsters, the American version of the first movie, not the new one, of course. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, that would be weird. It also came with Mothra versus Godzilla, Godzilla's Revenge, and Rodan. And I already mentioned it had Terror of Mechagodzilla, which was the first one I watched.
So we've recorded one episode so far. We did King Kong versus Godzilla. And I kind of talked a little bit about those different eras, like the Showa era. Can you,
right.
But you definitely know a little bit more than I do. Can you kind of give a brief overview of what those are and kind of like what that means when we say like Showa or Heisei?
Okay, so so the different eras in Japan normally relate to who is the emperor of Japan at the time. Like the Showa era pretty much ties to when Emperor Hirohito was the emperor of Japan through I want to say let's see. It was either mid or late 30s, and that Showa period ended in 1989. And then after that was when the Heisei era started. That was when they got a new emperor, and that pretty much lasted until last year, actually, 2019. And
Okay.
and now currently we are in the Reiwa period.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so essentially, each different era of Godzilla movies are pretty much organized by which era they were released in. However, it can be kind of weird at times because technically, the Heisei era of Godzilla movies lasted from 1989 all the way up to, let's see, I'd probably say like the anime trilogy. However, there is like a little continuity with some of those Heisei films. So a lot of people kind of separate some of those films. So while Godzilla 1984, which is what we're talking about in this episode, while that technically came out during the Showa era, it's usually thrown in with the Heisei films. And while that's like a more sort of streamlined continuity, like people consider the Heisei Godzilla movies to last from 1984 to 1995 with Godzilla vs. Destroya.
Okay.
And then everything after that is considered the Millennium era, starting with Godzilla 2000 all the way to Godzilla Final Wars. And they also like separate the American movies and the anime films as like their own eras, pretty much.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I saw when I was doing research on it too. Okay.
Yeah, it kind of seems a little simple at first, but once you consider the fact that these eras are like named after like actual like periods in Japan, and there's also the technicality that Godzilla 84 is a Showa film, but it's usually classified as a Heisei film. It gets a little confusing, but I believe that is how Toho officially like organizes it. Is that Showa is from the first Godzilla to Terror Mechagodzilla. Heisei is from Godzilla 84 to Godzilla vs. Destroya. Millennium is from 2000 to Final Wars. American films are their own thing. Anime films are their own thing. And the Reiwa era, even though it technically didn't come out during the Reiwa era, started with Shin Godzilla.
And that's been the only one so far, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I find it interesting how, Toho Productions, they're definitely not in these different eras. They're definitely not afraid to like take that break. It's not like they're trying to pump out a Godzilla movie every year. I think there's been multiple 10-year long breaks, right? Between some of these.
Yeah, there actually there have been like a few hiatuses throughout this series. Like King Kong versus Godzilla came out over half a year, not half a year, half a decade after Godzilla raids again.
Yeah.
And then after that, they pretty much made a new one like every year. And then after Terror of Mechagodzilla, they took like a 10-year break. And then and Godzilla vs. Biollante came out 5 years after Godzilla 84. And then when Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah came out in 1991, they started making one per year again. After it, actually, they made one every year up until Godzilla vs. Destroya, which was originally going to be the end of it all. And then Godzilla 1998 happened, and then they decided to bring it back. So yeah. so we pretty much got the Millennium films because we kind of dropped the ball on 1998. So after that,
I'm really excited to get to that movie because I think Toho even created their own version of the American version Godzilla, right?
Oh yeah. They essentially made a little spoof monster named Zilla who appeared in Godzilla Final Wars just to kill him off after being on screen for like 10 seconds. Okay, so going back to what I was saying, after 1998, like the next year was when the Millennium Era started with Godzilla 2000, and they pretty much made one per year again with Final Wars, and then that's when like another 10-year break started. And then we got Godzilla 2014, which was been in talks since like I believe 2010 or so, or although technically 2008, since Yoshimitsu Banno was wanting to do like his own IMAX Godzilla movie, and then it was picked up by Legendary. You know, they fiddled around with it, and we eventually got Godzilla 2014 out of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was there more, I guess more, just because I know there was a lot of pushback in the 1998 one, was there more, I guess, like collectiveness with them working together, or?
Well, it's kind of hard to say because while the Millennium series of Godzilla was kind of made to pretty much pretty much like do like Godzilla right again. It was kind of made at like the wrong time because I feel like after Godzilla vs. Destroya, everyone was just kind of done with the series, and while while a lot of people did see the Godzilla movies as like this silly, cheesy like monster movie franchise, Godzilla 1998 only like worsened that stigma and effect that some people have. And so while the Millennium Era of Godzilla movies did have some pretty solid films all around, they were just kind of made a little too late. Because while each Godzilla movie was, was kind of like, I guess you could say successful, like in the box office during the Millennium Era, those numbers like started to decrease with each film.
Okay.
So yeah, that was that. So yeah, that was pretty bad. But but thankfully, when Godzilla 2014 came out, that pretty much gave Godzilla like a big boost in popularity, so much that Toho almost immediately started production on Shin Godzilla.
And I think that's been really very well regarded.
Oh yeah, like okay, so Shin Godzilla was a huge success in Japan. It won numerous like prestigious awards, like in all these like Japanese like, you know, film festivals. I mean, I don't know about festivals, but like award ceremonies and whatnot.
Yeah,
it actually
kind of like their version of Golden Globes and Oscars and stuff. Right?
Yeah, it actually won. It actually won Best Picture of that year in Japan.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then when it was brought over to America for its limited theatrical run, thanks to Funimation, they actually extended its run for another week, and I think in some places like a few more weeks, because like it was so like beloved and highly regarded, and I believe it's like final screening during that run wasn't until Christmas that year in Austin, Texas.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean a lot of people, you know, love Shin Godzilla, and originally, you know, it's kind of funny because like your previous episode was King Kong versus Godzilla, and until Shin Godzilla came out, that was like one of that was like the highest grossing Godzilla film like at the time. That is if you don't count the re-releases of Mothra versus Godzilla, which I believe is still the highest grossing to this day.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Okay.
Well, adjusted for inflation, that is.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we can. So we already talked about that. We did record the Godzilla versus King Kong episode. But Titan, was there anything specific you wanted to kind of talk about with that episode?
I watched it last night with my roommate because I thought because I wasn't aware that y'all already did King Kong versus Godzilla. So
yeah, some miscommunication.
Yeah,
on my part.
I mean, it's all right. So I was watching King Kong versus Godzilla with my roommate last night, and while he's not like a huge Godzilla fan as much as I am, he has seen some of the movies, and he kind of likes what he's seen so far, and he really didn't like King Kong versus Godzilla.
He did or he didn't?
He did not.
So that's
yeah. So I mean, I don't necessarily like blame him like too much because I kind of think King Kong versus Godzilla isn't that great. It can be seen as one of those so bad it's good movies, or like its cheesiness kind of keeps it from like being a bad movie overall. Like there was this one part where he was kind of knocking on like the special effects during the scene where Godzilla emerges from the iceberg, like all the military like vehicles like roll out, and he was like, "Wow, can it be any more obvious that they're miniatures?" And I was like, "Do you think that they're just gonna afford an entire military force?"
Right. Not to mention it's what, 1962.
Yeah. Oh, and the funny thing is, he compares it to Independence Day, which came out in like the mid 90s. It's like, yeah. I even mentioned, dude, like that was the 90s. This is the 60s. You're comparing two completely different eras of special effects here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny though that you mentioned that about your roommate. So when we did, I can kind of tell you how the episode went. We recorded it, and Kyle and I, as I mentioned, we grew up watching Godzilla. So we both gave it every week, every time we do an episode, we give ratings for the movies. So it's on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of, and we, since it's a submarine podcast, we typically go with like a submarine size, like a 10-foot sub, whatever. But
all right.
Kyle and I both gave King Kong versus Godzilla like an 8. We were both very impressed. We loved it. We watched it all the time growing up. Alex, Jamie, and Ben, I think they averaged, because they had never seen it before and they're not avid Godzilla movie viewers, they averaged around, I think, a 4.5 to a 5 rating.
Ooh.
So big difference.
Yeah. I mean, on one hand, I can like understand. I mean, like there are times where, there are just like these like strange like plot conveniences. The biggest one being Kong having lightning powers, mainly because mainly because that was meant for Frankenstein, not King Kong.
Yeah, that's something we definitely talked about, like that, and that just comes out of nowhere.
Oh, totally. Yeah. So yeah, like while the writing like isn't great, I guess you could say that Ishiro Honda's directing is pretty good for the most part, and while the special effects like haven't necessarily aged well in that movie, I feel like the fact that they kind of didn't age very well kind of gives the movie its charm, because King Kong versus Godzilla, it's mainly a comedy, really. It's actually kind of parodying like the popularity of both monsters, while also acting as like a little commentary of like how huge television has like become, considering that the plot revolves around this failing TV station trying to like boost their ratings, like after they find out about King Kong, pretty much.
Yeah. And that was one of the questions we kind of discussed in that previous episode was the big edits, right? There was the Japanese version of the film, and then the American version of the film. They had a bunch of different edits, and is that is something that's kind of fairly common, right, Titan? Like with a lot of them, or if you wanted to kind of speak about that.
Yeah, it was fairly pretty common during the Showa era. Like the original. Let's see. I'm trying to think about how many of these Showa era Godzilla movies got like heavy re-edits. Because a good handful of them did. Okay, so as we all know, the original Godzilla was heavily re-edited into Godzilla King of the Monsters with Raymond Burr.
Yeah.
And while while that version of the film doesn't really feel as powerful as the original like Japanese version, like it still pretty much gets its like anti-nuclear message across pretty well. Like I think the only thing it really takes away from the original is that the effect isn't as powerful, because like when you watch the Japanese version, you kind of have that context of, okay, this is 9 years after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and like and the fact that it's like mainly like focused on the Japanese people just makes it like even more effective.
Yeah. And I think that's a real good point you just made. That's something we didn't talk about either, was the fact that 9 years after that actually happened. So
oh yeah, and not to mention like the fear of nuclear war was like a big deal at the time, especially in Japan. And then after that, Godzilla Raids Again also got heavily re-edited into Gigantus the Fire Monster. Now, a lot of people don't like that name change, but I kind of feel like it has to do with how poorly received Godzilla King of the Monsters was at the time, because like once that version came out, like not a lot of people liked it very much. So I feel like the name change was necessary to pretty much like try and get a bit more profit off of it. Although the strangest thing they did was that they gave Godzilla and Anguirus the same roar. I never really understood why. I thought that was really weird.
That is weird.
Yeah. Okay, and then King Kong versus Godzilla, it also got re-edited with American actors. They although I will say that the insertion of American actors in this one kind of takes away the plot a little, like almost to the point where it almost feels like there's no plot. It's just Godzilla and King Kong fighting. I forgot the name of the actor, but it would occasionally cut to this character named Eric Carter, and he would pretty much like just spout like random like news stuff, and like sometimes it would be relevant to the plot. It's like, okay, you see here, these are the berries that Kong has been eating, which made him grow bigger. It's like, I think I already figured that out, but all right.
Yeah, because there's the scene in it where I think that same actor is the character is holding up like, it looks like a elementary school dinosaur book, if you remember that. And he's like, they say Godzilla is a combination of the stegosaurus and but it does seem like that though. It's like they created that like in the American version, they added that entire plot point almost to like, I mean, I got a sense of like they're just trying to hold my hand through the film, just trying to keep it together.
Totally. and then there's also that one part where it's like, you see, Godzilla's brain is approximately the size of a walnut. How could you have figured that out? Well, Kong is a thinking animal.
Yeah, right.
It's like, okay, is this necessary? Okay, and then after that, Mothra versus Godzilla did get re-edited, but like very slightly. The only re-edit was that they actually included a new scene that wasn't actually in the original Japanese version. It's a scene of the United States Navy attacking Godzilla, and it's actually pretty good. And then after that, for Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, this is like one of the very rare times where I actually prefer the American version over the Japanese version, because the way the Japanese version is edited, it can the sense of like which moments are supposed to take place when kind of feels a little confusing. The American version kind of like swaps like some scenes around to pretty much like make the story like more coherent. and I think that was really good. And then we go to Invasion of Astro Monster, aka Monster Zero, with the legendary Nick Adams. I mean, there's really like no re-edit to that movie. I just want to mention that Nick Adams is a phenomenal actor. It's a huge shame that he passed away like not too long after that movie came out.
Okay,
yeah,
that's news to me. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, and like the really strange thing is that his death like seems like really sketchy, because the death certificate says murder suicide unknown. The common belief is that he like overdosed on drugs, but apparently those drugs were from his brother. Who said that like even if he like overdosed on them, there's no way he could have died. So it's really weird.
In which movie was this that he was in?
Oh, he was in Monster Zero.
Monster Zero. Okay.
And let's see. And I think after that, like not too many of the Godzilla movies ever had like American edits. Aside from Terror of Mechagodzilla, there's a scene in the original Japanese version that has fake rubber breasts. So it's in the American version, that part was pretty much cut out, and they also included like a little 10-minute long like introduction, which I believe was narrated by Henry Saperstein, who distributed like a good majority of these Godzilla movies to the U.S.
Okay.
And while the little 10-minute like introduction does sound pretty cool at first, like it kind of like feels a little unnecessary if you're just marathoning through these films. It's like, okay, Godzilla's a dinosaur, I get it. He's fought monsters, aliens. Can we just go to the movie? So, and that pretty much like brings us to now with Godzilla 1984, or in this case, Godzilla 1985. For this one, I got to give them mad props for bringing back Raymond Burr as Steve Martin, not to be confused with the actor Steve Martin, because Godzilla 1984 actually kind of like acts as like an alternate sequel to the original Godzilla, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that, I mean, we're talking, what was it 30 years, I think?
30 years, yeah.
So, I mean, I'm really surprised they even took the time to get him back. I mean, really.
Oh, yeah.
So it does kind of speak to that. It does definitely help that. The American edited one.
Well, like, especially considering the fact that Raymond Burr, highly regarded the original Godzilla as, like, just a great, phenomenal film overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, keep going.
Well, I was going to say in 1985 version, I believe what I read was that originally when they were making the edits for the American release of the film, it was intended, or at least they wanted it to be more of a comedy. And it was Raymond that specifically said, no, this is serious stuff. You know, this is nuclear war, like nuclear weapons. So it needs to be serious. Totally.
Yeah. Like there are actually moments in Godzilla 1985 where you can actually see like his frustration, like whenever someone would crack a joke. Like I believe this one joke was, oh my God, that's quite the urban renewal program they got going on there.
That's the exact line.
Yeah, and after that, it like cuts to Raymond Burr's face, and he's like really pissed off.
I just watched it. I watched it this morning again, and he just looks disgusted.
Yeah. All right. So also that all that Dr. Pepper marketing.
Yeah, that was something I did not remember. I mean, right, I saw this as a kid. So, but watching it now, I mean, it's so in your face. Like, yeah, Dr. Pepper. And then it made me look up, I guess, a lot of those advertisements that I had. Like, they created a bunch of TV advertisements with the Dr. Pepper too.
Oh yeah, and also can't help but laugh about that one scene where it's just this guy drinking Dr. Pepper, and the logo just so happened to be like facing the camera.
Yeah.
Better drink this can of Dr. Pepper in a way where the logo is facing the camera, just so everyone knows that I'm drinking Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, I would love to know, I guess, more details about that deal and how that all
Same
went
here. Apparently it just wasn't Dr. Pepper. I remember there being a Honey Nut Cheerios commercial as well.
Really? That's interesting. It's funny because growing up, the only like Godzilla advertisements I remember would be from the 1998 Hollywood film, right? With I think
with Taco Bell. Yeah.
Oh yeah, big time.
My younger brother actually went to a little vintage shop that's in Dallas, and he actually found a Godzilla 98 Taco Bell t-shirt that just so happened to be his size.
That's spectacular.
It's probably the rarest Godzilla item in our collection as of now.
That says something.
Yeah. All right. So, anything else?
Let's I did want to ask you one question about King Kong versus Godzilla, because as we were kind of talking about it, it made me remember you mentioned some of the scenes in that movie and some of the comedy scenes. One of the biggest scenes in that movie that was just like, it just stood out because it was ridiculous, was the smoking on the island scene. Do you remember that?
Oh man, that
when they give him cigarettes.
Man. Also, in case it wasn't obvious, those are totally Japanese actors in blackface.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing we mentioned. We're like, so
yeah,
we're gonna talk about this.
Yeah.
And
okay, so apparently Half Human was considered being discriminatory, but not King Kong versus Godzilla. So wow, that smoking scene, like, it felt so out of place. Like, it's like,
didn't it though?
Yeah, it's especially when it gets to the part where they actually give the kid a cigarette. Like, what the hell?
Well, yeah, like they take it so far, and they give the kid, and then they kind of just like laugh, like, "Don't tell your mom." And then she takes the pack and gets her own cigarette. Like, what? She's just smoking with her kid on an island. Like, it's like you said, it stood out so much that it's like, what is this?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a pretty good laugh about that.
Yeah, I bet.
So here we are. So the 1984, 1985 Godzilla film that we're kind of covering. So this is the first movie, as we kind of talked about. You said it was filmed during the Showa era, but it's still considered kind of like that first movie in the Heisei era.
Yes. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, the movie following this is kind of, I mean, they make it like a direct sequel to this one, right?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, like so the 1984-85 Godzilla film. So the Heisei era films, don't they all kind of follow each other in terms of like chronology?
Yeah. They each one is set almost immediately after the other, with the exception of Godzilla versus Biollante, which is 5 years after Godzilla 1984.
Okay. So let's let's just talk about this movie. So which one did you watch? You said
okay, so and this is mainly due to the availability of the film. I always watch the original Japanese version of Godzilla 1984, and that's pretty much mainly because Godzilla 1985 isn't as available like on home video. As far as I know, it's only been released on VHS. However, I do have a bootleg of the film on Blu-ray, and you can also watch Godzilla 1985 online. But like when it comes to like official licensed availability, Godzilla 1984, the original Japanese version with the international English dub, is what you'll most likely find.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we kind of have to just decide. I guess what do we want to talk about with this film? What would did you kind of want to go through it? Was there any jump out scenes? You mentioned this was I think because I watched your YouTube video on the Heisei era, and I think you mentioned that this was one of your top films, right? Your Godzilla films.
Oh yeah, it's okay. So actually, it kind of does like change from time to time. Like originally, this was like my all-time favorite, but now Mothra vs. Godzilla is my all-time favorite, and that's kind of the thing with the Godzilla series. Like one movie is going to be your favorite, another movie could be your other because like there's a Godzilla movie for everyone pretty much.
Yeah.
Like almost every Godzilla movie is unique in their own way. And so and during that video I did mention that there were like multiple drafts that they were going through when trying to like revive the Godzilla series in the mid 80s. I believe the earliest draft was The Resurrection of Godzilla, which essentially is pretty much, I believe, almost the same movie we got, but it was one of those films where Godzilla would fight another monster named Bakken, who after like several concepts would later be renamed Bagan, and Bakken is like this like strange like hybrid monster creature. There's like a water beast Bakken, a land beast Bakken, a sky beast Bakken, and they will like combine into like this like strange, odd, like creature with like with a fish on its crotch.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it was strange, and then eventually the creature got like a heavy redesign for like the draft of this one film called Mothra versus Bagan. And for so long they've actually like considered to include this monster in one of the films, but he never did, and his only appearance is in the video game Super Godzilla, which is on the Super Nintendo.
And I think is that when in the video you said that was the boss, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So after several drafts, we eventually got Godzilla 1984. Or more commonly known as The Return of Godzilla, to pretty much avoid confusion with the original Godzilla, because it's simply titled Godzilla, and it's directed by Koji Hashimoto, who also directed Sayonara Jupiter the same year. It's Sayonara Jupiter is an adaptation of the book by Sakio Komatsu, who also did Submersion of Japan. The book for that, and it's something. Sayonara Jupiter it's something. Yeah, I also uploaded a review on Sayonara Jupiter like after I did the whole like history of Godzilla month, and it's a weird but terrible movie.
That is one I've never seen.
Yeah, I mean like I think it might be out of print, but you can probably find it online somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's a weird movie. So yeah, Godzilla 1984, directed by Koji Hashimoto. It would also be produced by Tomoyuki Tanaka, who's pretty much the guy who created Godzilla.
Yeah, and that was his reasoning. Well, for this movie, was he wanted it to go back to kind of like that darker kind of tone, right? Like kind of.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah,
and the special effects would be directed by Teruyoshi Nakano, who directed the effects for essentially like the latter half of the Showa era Godzilla films. I believe from Hedorah to Terror of Mechagodzilla, and like anything before that, he was an assistant of special effects to Eiji Tsuburaya.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and another interesting thing to note is that Toyoshi Nakano has like his own like distinct style of directing special effects. He uses a lot of pyrotechnics in his work, so and he really likes to place a lot of emphasis on on destruction and all that. And you can definitely see that in some of the earlier Godzilla films, especially the non-Godzilla films like Atragon. And Teruyoshi Nakano essentially the Michael Bay of the Godzilla movies at the time. Just explosions everywhere, like especially with the two Mechagodzilla movies. There are explosions everywhere. The suits are on fire. The actors are in danger.
Yeah, I remember seeing those were just constant action and explosions.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and another thing that's pretty interesting is that while he's uncredited, Shinji Higuchi is the assistant special effects director
with the 1984 one.
Yes, for Godzilla 1984. Shinji Higuchi, you may know him as the director of, well, not the director, but the co-director of Shin Godzilla. He also directed the live-action Attack on Titan movies, which I really love. And
I
also,
didn't know that. Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I read in an interview in Famous Monsters magazine about how Teruyuki Nakano was essentially like his mentor when it came to like doing special effects. So like during the set of like Godzilla 1984, like Nakano was essentially like his teacher, like for that little aspect.
That's neat. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I believe in a little like G-Fan interview, Shinji Higuchi said that he pretty much helped Godzilla suit actor Ken Satsuma get in and out of the suit.
Yeah.
So I pretty much believe that he mainly like helped out with like, you know, the suit stuff. And another interesting thing is that I believe in that same interview he did he pretty much like wanted Godzilla to be shot from low angles at different points, just like give this like grand sense of scale of the monster throughout the film, which I think was totally effective. Like it really worked.
I agree completely. I think technically in this film I think in this film Godzilla's, is it 80 feet tall?
I either 80 or 85 feet tall.
Okay, because I know they upped him in this one, but
yeah.
And you even mentioned this in your video that it's the guy in the costume, but the scale of the like the miniature, like the buildings, right? Like It just looks amazing, you know, which was surprising. When I started looking up this movie again before I watched it, it has, not great reviews, right? Like it's not.
Oh yeah.
Like there's a lot of naysayers with this movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
And that pretty much mainly has to do with how a lot of people watched Godzilla 1985 before the original Japanese version. So that was like the version that was the version they had to go off of.
And that would make sense then, because those changes and everything. Okay.
Yeah. And I should also mention that Shinji Higuchi would also later direct the special effects for the highly praised Gamera trilogy that occurred during the 90s.
Now that I was going to ask you that at the end, but we can talk about this now. So I absolutely love that trilogy. I've got that on Blu-ray, and I love that the Gamera monster, right? That character.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I mean, they definitely deserve all the praise they get. If not, they deserve more praise. They're arguably like the greatest like monster movies out there. And director Shusuke Kaneko, I forgot the name of the screenwriter, but it was the same screenwriter who did the original Ghost in the Shell. So him, Kaneko, and Higuchi did a phenomenal job, like bringing Gamera to a new light for this new trilogy, and also really like the lore they establish in this trilogy as well. Like, there's this YouTuber I watch. I'm good friends with him too. His name is Blue Nova. He made several videos on the Gamera trilogy, and he really like goes deep into like the Gamera mythos in like some of those. And I believe comic artist Matt Frank, who does some of the like IDW Godzilla comics, who he's also currently doing like a Red Man comic. let's see. He made a Gamera comic that was officially licensed by Kadokawa. I haven't really looked into it myself, but I have heard that is a pretty solid comic all around.
Okay.
So yeah, Gamera Trilogy, check it out. Absolutely, just check it out. Mandatory viewings if you're a huge monster fan.
I'll have to ask Kyle to see if he's watched them or not yet, too. And if anything, I'll have to let him borrow my Blu-ray copies because they are phenomenal. And I'll have to check out your buddy's YouTube channel on it. I'd be interested to watch those.
Sweet. And again, it's Blue Nova. It's BLUNOVA.
All right. I'll have to. I can't. Do any of those Gamera movies have a submarine in it? Because if it does, we're gonna have to do one. I'm trying to think.
Well, let's see. I do know one of them does. I forgot which one though. If not, two of them might have submarines.
Yeah,
who knows?
Submarines are very common in some of these.
Yeah. I am mainly thinking of the part where they're underwater and they see all of the Gamera skeletons. I'm trying to remember which movie that was.
Like those older Gamera ones, I haven't seen those since I was a kid, for sure.
The Showa Gamera films?
Yeah, those older ones, yeah.
Okay, so as many people like to bash on them, I kind of have a soft spot for them.
I do. I definitely do. Maybe it's because I kind of, as kid watching with my dad type of thing, but I definitely have a soft spot for him.
Yeah, and let's see. I definitely enjoy Gamera versus Barugan. I think that's the best of the Showa films. I also like Gamera versus Giren, Gamera versus Virus, and Gamera versus Jiger is kind of strange because Gamera kind of has an abortion, which is weird.
I do not. I might have missed that one. That does not ring a bell. But that is weird.
It's something. The American title was Gamera versus Monster X. You might know it with that title. And although it's also kind of funny because there are like multiple Monster X's throughout like Japanese media. There's Jiger, who's named Monster X. There's the X from outer space. Then there's Monster X from Godzilla Final Wars. So
that's definitely not confusing.
Japan loves the letter X. There's Ultraman X.
I don't think there's been a Ultraman X. I don't think, has there been any Gamera movies since the 90s, that trilogy?
There was Gamera the Brave, which came out 2006, and it's essentially the Iron Giant, both Gamera, but it's all around a pretty solid film.
Okay, I have not seen that one.
Yeah, and let's see. Oh yeah, there's also like a little 50th anniversary, like 3 or 5 minute short Gamera film, which a lot of people confuse to be like a trailer for a new Gamera movie that's coming out, which that wasn't really the case. It was like a 50th anniversary celebration.
Okay.
So yeah, there's pretty much that. Oh. Okay, so are you familiar with Arrow Video?
No.
Okay, so I believe they will be releasing a complete Gamera collection sometime in the summer, and a part of me hopes that it's not a UK exclusive because Arrow Video does have like its UK exclusives, like the Vengeance trilogy, which has Old Boy in it. And that's not available in the US. So I hope it's not just a UK exclusive.
Yeah, that'd be great if it was released internationally.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if that Criterion Godzilla set was released in the UK and the US, I mean, that Gamera set's gotta like come here too.
Yeah, I'd hope so. Here's hoping.
Yeah.
All right, let's bring it back to the Godzilla, though. We could probably get off track all night. And I will say at this point, why did Submersion pick this movie to watch? It's because of a short little scene. I believe the only submarine in this movie is the Russian sub scene. And,
right, and I'm sorry. Keep going.
No, and that's pretty much it, right? That's kind of like what, and that's kind of what I liked about this movie, though, was that you had the Japanese government and they're kind of like that middleman. And I really liked how they played off, you know, the United States and the Russians, the USSR, because of the whole, you know, them just wanting, oh, let's just go nuke them. Let's use our nuclear weapons. And Japanese is like, you know, Japan's like, no. And that, you probably know his name, but the actor that played, I believe, the Japanese prime minister, I thought he was great in this movie.
Let's see. Keiju Kobayashi, who I believe he was also in Submersion of Japan. But yeah, that scene with the Russian sub, while many people can view it as like just a simple throwaway scene, it actually does have a lot of historical significance to the film, because at the time Japan was essentially caught between the United States and the USSR during the Cold War.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about this movie, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. It was about the submarine. Oh, it'll come to me. You go ahead, Titan. Sorry.
So yeah, it's so yeah, like that whole subplot of America and Russia wanting to use nuclear weapons on like Japanese soil does essentially like cause like a lot of it essentially does cause a lot of disturbance. You know, again, Japan was essentially caught between America and the USSR during the Cold War. So while America and Russia are pro-nuclear, Japan is essentially like anti-nuclear. Like after World War II, they pretty much like banned the use of nuclear weapons, and it also brings back that anti-nuclear message that Godzilla had in the first place. I mean, you have a country who was the first to experience like the horrors of nuclear fallout and devastation, that it really left a huge impression on the nation. So yeah, and that really makes that aspect of the film like really powerful.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it goes back to its roots, right? Like that's what this film did, and that's why I was still so surprised to see. I guess I don't want to say hate, but just negative attitudes towards this film, because I thought it was just done really well. And even in your video that you did on YouTube, like when you talked about the emotional scene, like at the end and the volcano, I mean, it is like this was. I think this is a very well done Godzilla film, and I'm really interested to see. I'll have to let you know how Kyle rates this, and then compare it to what Ben, Alex, and Jamie rate it as, because this one's up there for me.
I'm gonna take a sip of some water real quick. I'm kind of losing my voice here. Okay, so shoot, I had one thing on my mind, but I was thinking about my water. Dang it.
That's fine. I know we've kind of covered a lot of this movie. I guess in terms of I remember now. Okay, so Godzilla 1984 is essentially like a modernized remake of the original. Modernized at the time, I mean, because it was the 80s. It's 2020 right now. Modernized wouldn't really sound right. So yeah, it's almost like a soft reboot in a sense, but there is enough to like make it different. Because one, it is a follow up to the original Godzilla. And I also really like how instead of making Godzilla like just a symbol of nuclear devastation like the original did, they also gave him like more of a character in this film. Especially during the ending, you kind of get a sense that Godzilla is like this tragic being who is lost in our time. Yes, exactly. I agree with you 100%.
Oh yeah, and a huge part of that has to go with how the suit is designed. Now I know there's like puppets and that Cybot Godzilla, but my personal favorite Godzilla suit is that Godzilla 1984 suit, which is named 84 Goji because I feel like that suit conveys so much emotion, like that scene after he reawakens and like goes to take down the Super X, like you can tell that he is just pissed off.
Yeah. Yes. And exactly. Like you can sense the anger.
Yeah, and there's also that one part where he's kind of looking up at the flock of seagulls, and he's kind of like has this like little sense of curiosity about him. There's also a little moment where he kind of looks through the window and you see that one guy, like I forgot his name, but he's like the funny guy in the movie.
Yeah, he's the one that he's like talking to Godzilla. Is that the one?
Yeah.
It's just like, who are you to come here or something like that?
Yeah.
But I agree with you though. It's like when he looks at the birds, I can see how some people are like, oh, that's corny, that's lame. But it's like, well, no, it shows like that childlike innocence, just like curiosity and just
yeah.
Like you said, he's lost in our time, and that's what it's not just here's a monster killing everybody, we got to destroy it. It's like, no, there's another level to this. There's depth to Godzilla for once. And
totally. Let's see. What else is there to talk about?
I'm trying to think if there's anything else to really specifically talk about that film. You did mention special effects, though. I feel like the special effects, the miniatures, I think it was done really well here.
Totally.
I mean,
and
can go.
I actually really like how like the skyscrapers are larger than Godzilla himself. Like it really just adds to like how huge he is. But at the same time, like those, like it does tie back to Godzilla being a creature lost in our time sort of deal. Like considering the fact that Godzilla's normally shot from low angles, the buildings are taller than him. It kind of adds this like little sense of like, adventurous wonder like to it, and also like I really love that shot where you see like Godzilla's reflection through that one building. I thought that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And earlier I mentioned that Godzilla has been portrayed in the film in multiple different ways. There was the suit. A puppet that they used for like for some shots, and then they used a Cybot Godzilla suit, which is essentially like a giant like animatronic Godzilla, which they mainly use for close-ups, and as much as I love the film, that's probably like. It's probably like the one thing I don't like about it is because like when it does change to the Cybot Godzilla suit, it's so obvious.
Yeah, that's a good point. When it's zoomed in that close, you can see the differences in detail.
Yeah, like it's a totally different face. And they also made a life-sized Godzilla foot for the movie that was used in a few shots.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, and I also want to go back to, I mean, not just the miniatures, but like the production design all around. I thought the production design was done really well, especially towards the end, where Godzilla has essentially done his rampage. Like everything looks like dark, like it's like apocalyptic. And honestly just depressing to look at, but so powerful at the same time.
Absolutely. It's just a darker, like a grim film. You're not like, I remember so like King Kong versus Godzilla, like there's just like even the fights between those two are like comical and some ridiculous stuff was happening. There just wasn't, which is good though. I mean, that's what it needed. Like it was just dark. It wasn't happy. It's not like everyone's cheering at the end. It's like, no, this is just like when I liked when they did the shots of like the close-ups of I think it was all the members or like the top members of the Japanese government or something, like when they were watching the screen. You could see like the red reflection. I mean, it's not happy; it's emotional. I think you even said that in your video.
I'm not sure if I mentioned this in my video, but the one thing I would say that Godzilla 1985 the American version has over 84 is the speech that Raymond Burr gives at the end of the film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, although I don't mind that it isn't in the original Japanese version, I feel like I feel like that speech alone makes the American version worthwhile.
That's a great point. It's not that the 1984 one like needed it, but it complemented the American one very well.
Absolutely.
He definitely wasn't just some, like, oh, look, they brought him back, whatever. No, his character was meaningful and it expressed in a very important message. So,
there's also that mutated sea lice or louse lice. I mean, I don't know what it's called. Like near the beginning of the movie.
Oh yeah.
I mean, honestly, I thought that was pretty scary.
I don't think it kind of came out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, it's like on one hand, it's a pretty frightening scene, but on the other, it's almost like a totally different movie.
Yeah, and that's that's what I like when they kind of incorporate those other things. Like even going back to King Kong versus Godzilla, like they included that entire scene with the octopus, and like it didn't need that scene, but it was really well done, and I loved it.
Oh yeah.
Just kind of showing you what else is out there, right? Like there's still these other mutations, these other creatures.
Yeah, and also like how they pretty much like stuck with the fact that Godzilla is like able to like contaminate with like with the radiation that he like feasts upon, because that was an idea mentioned in the original 1954 Godzilla. That was never really like brought up ever again after that.
And they use that a lot in the newer Hollywood films.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's see. Earlier we mentioned Keiju Kobayashi as the prime minister, who's definitely like the best character in this film overall. How did you feel how do you feel about Ken Tanaka as Goromaki, who's like the main reporter character?
So I liked the character. I
liked him too.
Yeah, I mean, like I know online, I try not to, make my opinion on others' reviews, but people said like some of these characters didn't have substance or depth, but I liked him. I felt like he was a good addition to the film, drove the plot along, and I thought he was good. I thought he did a great job.
Yeah, and also kind of feel like when you're discussing like a matter similar to like nuclear weapons, and especially if it's like a Japanese film and you have a monster that sort of like represents the fear of nuclear weapons, I feel like and I can also say this about the original Godzilla and even Shin Godzilla, since they're essentially like mirrors of each other in almost a sense. I feel like it's a really good idea to like put it through like a very like human perspective, like you have main characters who don't like they have their place in the world, but they don't necessarily like feel significant, and they're pretty much caught in like within the turmoil that this monster is creating like upon the nation.
Mm-hmm. And you bring up a great point, and it just triggered a memory from the movie. Was I loved the scene how they incorporated. It was really short, but they like showed like the subway, right, and like the train station and the airport, and they showed the people's fear and them like panicking and leaving and trying to get out of Tokyo really quick, and that was just showed you the impact of this, right? Like how it can spread, and which related to the earlier scene with the Ken character, where he's like, I want to do the story, and he's like, well, no, it's going to cause a panic. We can't do that.
Yeah. And I also want to mention how this movie has a Goromaki, and Shin Godzilla has like its own Goromaki.
I'm sorry. My volume just cut out. What did you say?
I kind of find it funny how this movie has a Goromaki, Son of Godzilla has a Goromaki, and Shin Godzilla has a Goromaki.
There's emphasis on that character, that style.
And see, there's also Yasuko Sawaguchi as Naoko Okamura, who is the sister of Hiroshi Okamura, played by Shin Takuma. And I mean, I don't know why, but in Godzilla 1985, they renamed Hiroshi with Kenny.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was weird. I mean,
I didn't even catch on until I looked at, because I watched the 1985 version most recently, and then looking it up and watching reviews and clips from the 1984 version, I never really pieced that together. But I'm like, that's just an odd choice.
I like a lot of people don't like the Naoko character. They like a lot of people feel like she doesn't really like serve much of a purpose to the story. But again, I do feel like with a movie like this, you want to have people who feel like very human. You really like want to feel the emotions that pretty much go through their head when they're trying to like deal with the fact that there's a giant monster like in Japan that's destroying everything. I do feel like Naoko was a pretty solid side character, and same with Hiroshi, who is the character that Goro essentially like saves from that little abandoned yacht where that mutated sea louse was.
Yeah.
And there's also Yosuke Natsuki as Dr. Makoto Hayashida, who's a guy who pretty much like creates a little device to replicate those bird calls to pretty much attract Godzilla to the volcano.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, personally, I feel like the movie. I wish the movie did have more of him. I found him to be a pretty interesting character, and same with the actor himself, Yosuke Natsuki. I mean, I kind of wish he was in there a little more because in the original Godzilla, you do have. I'm sorry, my roommate just walked in. That sound of the door. Sound of the door probably got in the audio in there. Okay, so as I was saying, I kind of wish Dr. Hayashida did have a bigger presence in Godzilla 1984, because going back to the original Godzilla, Dr. Serizawa was a major part in the original film. He's the one who created the oxygen destroyer, and it's pretty much like he was essentially like the symbol of how like mankind can create such a powerful like destructive weapon, but should it be used?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I kind of feel like that was an element that I wish got carried over. But how do you feel about the character or other characters overall?
We kind of talked about it a lot, but the character that stood out the most was the Prime Minister to me. I enjoyed his screen time the most.
Oh, absolutely. You can definitely like feel like the pressure that the United States and the USSR are like putting upon him to like use nuclear weapons to get rid of Godzilla, when Japan is a very like anti-nuclear nation.
Yeah, and that's like it went to that one scene where they did those quick cuts back and forth, kind of like. It reminded me of kind of like the whole heaven and hell on the shoulders type of thing, where it would like show it from like his left view and his right view, and they just kept kind of like pulling back and forth like a tug of war match. I just really liked that. I thought that was really good, really well done.
All right, so let's see, anything else we should talk about here?
Yeah, I guess. If there's anything, yeah, go ahead, Tom.
How do you feel about the scoring by, let's see, looking up his name here.
Let's
see.
What is it?
It's Reijiro Koroku. He did the scoring for this movie. And, well, I mean, a lot of people, including myself, are used to the scoring of Akira Ifukube. I honestly really like Reijiro's scoring for this movie. while it's not like as iconic as Akira Fukubi's scoring in the other movies, I feel like it still like produces that same effect. I feel like the main theme for Godzilla 1984 is just as powerful as like the Godzilla theme, like we all know.
I think he did a great job as well. Even from like the opening credits.
Oh
it's not a happy movie, right? I mean,
yeah, it's just chilling.
Exactly. It is chilling. That's a good way to describe it. So I think he did a really great job.
There's also the song that plays during the credits. It's okay. I'm looking at the Wikizilla page. It says Godzilla. Wait, actually, I'm actually thinking of something else. Okay, the song is called "Goodbye Lover." It's performed by Yasuko Sawaguchi herself, and I believe the one in the film is "Goodbye Godzilla," which I believe it's the same song, but they changed the word "lover" to Godzilla.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, I'll tell you, I was not aware of that before
not
this.
At all.
Yeah, like I just found this out.
I'll have to go back and listen to it after we're done.
Yeah.
I'm curious to kind of just try to pay more attention to it. That's interesting.
Let's see. Godzilla 1985 was produced by Tony Randall, who you may know as the director of Hellraisers 2 and 3.
Okay.
So I thought that was a pretty interesting thing to note. I mean, I'm guilty of not having seen the Hellraiser movies, but I do know a lot of people love the Hellraiser films, so I thought I'd mention it.
No, that's a great thing to mention. Those are two. I think that's Pinhead, correct?
Yes, Pinhead.
Yeah, I have not seen those movies either, but I know they're really popular.
Oh yeah.
Well, Titan, I know we're kind of wrapping up the movie.
Yeah, I mean,
would you be comfortable giving it a 1 to 10 ranking?
Okay, I'll pretty much give my overall consensus on the film. Return of Godzilla, or Godzilla 1984, whichever you want to call it. It's just an amazing film all around. It's an incredible way to bring the Godzilla series back to its more darker anti-nuclear roots. I really like Koji Hashimoto's directing in the film. I love the writing, like the action, special effects, the scoring, and it had some pretty solid characters all around, and this is like the one Godzilla movie I always find myself going back to, and I also say, while like as good as the original Godzilla movie is, there are people out there who don't really have a fondness for black and white films, and because of that, I find Return of Godzilla to be the perfect alternative for that. It's almost the same movie, just with a more modern touch to it, and again, there's also the fact that they made Godzilla like more of a character instead of being just a symbol of nuclear devastation. So overall, I would give Return of Godzilla a 9 out of 10.
Boom, there it is. Nice. All right. Well, listeners, I'll give my review here, or my rating here. I'm also going to give it to when we record with the rest of the Submersion co-hosts, but I'm going to give, so I gave King Kong versus Godzilla, I gave that an 8.2. Really love that movie. But this one,
we're going with decimals. All right.
I know, right? We do that on Submersion just to tilt the scales, I guess. But
all right.
this is going up. This is going higher than that one. This one is one I could definitely, I thoroughly enjoyed revisiting this film. And after talking with you and just going over all these points, I'm like, you know what? Actually, I like going into this talk we're having, Titan, I was like, oh, I really like this movie. But after even discussing it more, I'm like, wow, I think I really like this movie. So I'm going to go up there with you. I'm going to give it a 9. Absolutely.
Nice.
Definitely a 9. So this is one. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Titan, was, let's say you had a complete outsider to the Godzilla franchise. So, you know, kind of like Ben, Jamie, and Alex, what would you start them with? Would it be this film to kind of introduce them to the franchise, or would it be a different one?
Well, as I said earlier, the original Godzilla, it's a very, very like well-made film. Like, it definitely has its place in Japanese pop culture. It also has its place in cinema, but at the same time, there are people who aren't very fond of black and white films. So I would say Return of Godzilla is like a very good alternative to that, because it has like a more modernized touch. Just for the sake of like modernity, I would also recommend Shin Godzilla as a film for newcomers, since like those three movies essentially have like a very similar story, but like very similar themes to it as well. And well, let's see. And I mentioned this like way early in the episode, is that each Godzilla movie is very unique in their own way. There will be movies that appeal to some people, movies that don't appeal to some people. So essentially, there's a Godzilla movie for everyone. It just kind of takes some digging around and finding like which ones do you like? Do you like Godzilla movies with like even sillier, goofier plots? Do you like alien invasions? Do you like political dramas? Do you like island adventures? I mean, do you like, I don't know, messages about pollution? Or do you just like monster battles all around, and you just want to watch Godzilla movies for the monster battles?
I feel like that could be a tagline for the franchise. Just wherever you are in the world, there's a Godzilla movie for you.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Well, Titan, so we kind of covered the movie. I know I sent you some questions that some of the other co-hosts and myself had. Did you want to spend some time and kind of go through some of these?
Yeah, sure. I don't have the questions with me right now, since I'm recording with my phone, and I'm not used to the computer version of Instagram. So feel free to roll through them.
Yeah, I've got some here. I've got them right in front of me. So some of them are fun, some of them are goofy. But so our one co-host Ben asks, who is Godzilla's deadliest foe?
Let's see. Definitely King Ghidorah. I don't think you can get any more iconic as that. While Godzilla has fought stronger opponents before, King Ghidorah has definitely like rooted himself pretty deep into the Godzilla mythos as this galaxy-destroying space dragon, and he essentially what kickstarted Godzilla from being like the symbol of terror to being like a protector of the Earth.
Okay. He's definitely one of my favorite ones. That's for sure. I love.
Absolutely. In fact, Toho actually has like a big 5 for Godzilla, which is Godzilla, King Ghidorah, Rodan Mothra, and Mechagodzilla. Like, those are Toho's big 5.
That's interesting, because 4 of those 5 were in the most recent Hollywood film.
Oh yeah.
Godzilla King of the Monsters, yeah.
And the 5th one was in Ready Player One, which is another Warner Brothers film.
Oh, yeah.
And that may or may not tell us something.
Hints, people.
Yeah.
So Alex asks, it's a little bit of a goofy one, but that's our boy Alex. Who would win, an army of cats or Godzilla?
How many cats are we talking here?
So, if I know Alex like I think I do, an army of cats would be in the, let's say 100,000 cats.
Okay, so while Godzilla definitely has the advantage to win in a fight against 100,000 cats, at the same time, I kind of feel like there could be just enough cats to wear him down, to the point where the cats would end up having an upper hand, despite suffering so many casualties. I can't help but think about that one scene in Godzilla vs. Megaguirus, where he's fighting all like the little Meganulas. They're like like getting all over him. He's like struggling, like he's really struggling with that. And all it took was like a black hole gun, like from space, to pretty much like end it. So 100,000 cats definitely have a chance.
I'd like to see those Vegas odds.
Yeah. All right. Next question.
Jamie asks, is Bowser actually Godzilla?
I mean, have you ever seen Bowser and Godzilla in the same room together?
I know. That's an easy one there, Jamie.
Yeah.
Kyle does ask, what's your oh, you already said this one, right? Your current favorite Godzilla movie is the Mothra.
Yeah, Mothra versus Godzilla is my favorite, actually.
Yep. Alex asks another question, which I think this is a really good question. Do you think what would it take for there to be an Oscar-winning Godzilla film?
Well, I mean, considering the fact that the Oscars would rather pick Cats as a worthy contender for best special effects over Godzilla King of the Monsters, I don't know what to say.
That sentence right there almost says it.
Yeah. Which pretty much tells you that the Oscars have become a joke.
Right. Godzilla, you're better off.
And the funny enough, like the closest it's actually like gotten to that was when Shin Godzilla won like the award for Best Picture, like in the Japan Film Awards.
Okay. A couple more that I had. So, this is Submersion. This is a submarine podcast, listeners. So I have a question. How important do you think, Titan, are submarines in the Godzilla universe?
Well, I'd say when you're dealing with a threat like Godzilla, you're pretty much going to need all the resources you have to fend him off. So I'd say submarines are a huge necessity to that, especially since Godzilla likes to travel underwater at times. I mean, it's a very good way of tracking him and just seeing like what he's up to. I mean, as long as you're not using a nuclear submarine, you're fine.
Oh, and the next question, kind of to tag on with that, is what would it take for a submarine to take down Godzilla?
I mean,
or is it possible?
Well, from what I've seen, it's not possible unless it's the Gotengo, which is a flying submarine with a drill on the front.
Well, that sounds awesome.
and actually, the Gotengo did take down Godzilla in Final Wars at the beginning.
Ooh, there we go. I think, is that our Godzilla movie? I'm trying to think which ones we picked for the month. Yeah, was that Final Wars, you said?
Yeah, Final Wars.
Yes, we are doing that one. Godzilla
Nice.
Final Wars. So we're definitely doing that one. Yeah. Okay, well, Titan, that's kind of all the questions that the other hosts had that I kind of had. Did you have anything else you wanted to kind of discuss or mention?
Can I shameless plug here?
Absolutely. Take all the time you need.
Okay, so again, I am TitanGoji. I have a YouTube channel where I essentially talk about Japanese films and shows. Mostly, I've made kaiju videos, and most of those kaiju videos are Godzilla related. So feel free to check me out on YouTube. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter or Facebook, and also have a Patreon. And once I reach enough patrons, I'll do a review on the tokusatsu series Red Man from Subaraya Productions, and also have a TeePublic where I sell t-shirt designs. Recently, I did a design celebrating the 55th anniversary of Gamera. So yeah, feel free to check me out in all those places.
All right, listeners, this was another Submersion interview episode. Thanks for listening, and we will talk to you again.
See you guys.
Nice job.
Yes. Great interview, Zach. Thank you, TitanGoji, for being on.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, super fan of the show. We know you listen to everything that we've ever done. So thank you for that. And I think now it's time that we get in to some of our ratings and how we felt about this movie, Godzilla 1984, 1985, whatever, Return of Godzilla. If you can remember that 3-minute recap Jamie just did a long time ago.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first? Godzilla wants to go first. Take it away, Godzilla.
Well, I really enjoyed being in this episode. I give my performance a 10.
Not a 12?
Oh,
Right.
Couldn't do it again. He's going to be bleeding from his vocal cords if he does that too much.
Yeah, I'm going to take a sip of my seltzer water.
The booch.
Ooh. All right. I can go first. Whatever. We'll get this. I mean, second. Thank you, Godzilla. That was
Nice.
beautiful.
Yeah. Second.
No problem.
So, this movie is sequel to a movie from 30 years prior. And to get pumped up for this movie, I did watch Gojira, the original Japanese version. And I think it really helped feed in. I don't know. I've been on this like Godzilla kick since we started this month, and it's really fueled this fire inside of me that I just love Godzilla. I even got a couple books about Godzilla, guys.
That's awesome.
Books, guys. So
You don't read.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I know.
are they picture books? What are they?
2 of them are graphic novels. Yes.
Oh, good.
So, and then the third one is something else, but I'll delve into that later. Not this episode. But
one of those.
everything going on in this, I don't know. It's pretty wild, you know? You look at the movie we just watched, Godzilla vs. King Kong. That one I feel like has more of a comedy type aspect to it with all the advertisers and stuff. And then you watch a film like Gojira, and then you watch this one. These are much more serious, so it's in like an entirely different vein, I guess, in the Godzilla universe. Something I don't even remember if it was ever explained what the heck those little monsters were on the ship. Does anybody remember that?
So they were mutant lice that were living on Godzilla's body.
Those were lice?
Yeah, so they got real
That's
big
gross.
because they were drinking his nuclear blood or whatever.
Nuclear
Blood. Yeah. All right. Well,
It's
I guess
science,
that
guys, it's
makes
science.
sense.
Just so they trust
It
me.
is science.
Thanks, Jim. Science.
But there was a lot going on, and I actually really enjoyed this film. I thought it was kind of fun. You saw the aspects. I thought it was so funny when U.S. and Russia both came in and were like, we want to nuke this thing before it kills us. And Japan's like, yeah, it's on our land. Like, you're going to nuke us. And they're like, we don't care. We got to take the monster down. And then eventually they're like, okay, let's stop. Let's not do that. A lot of good stuff going on. I didn't like this film as much as I liked the original Gojira, but whatever. What can I say? I don't think I can rate this one as high as what I gave King Kong vs. Godzilla, just due to the nostalgia factor involved with that one. But I'm going to come in this one like a 6.5.
Nice. I can go next, I think. So I like this one better than King Kong versus Godzilla. What did I give
You
that
didn't
one?
watch the Japanese one, though, right?
No, did I give
You
that
just
one?
watched the American one.
Did I give that one a 6? I watched a lot of the Japanese one of that one. I
I think
agree.
you gave
was
that one
better.
like a. You
Give
gave that
5.5.
one a 9.5.
5.5.
5.5.
Yeah, so I like this one better. It's very long. It's too long. That's my one complaint about it. It also kind of, to me, it kind of dipped downwards as the movie went on. Because like I liked the opening with it being kind of like island. Godzilla was like an island. That's how big he was. I really like the sea lice. It reminded me a little bit of like The Thing. Kind of they were trying to get some of that 80s, 70s, 80s sci-fi horror in there. And I really enjoyed that. It looked kind of cool. I was impressed just that it looked so much different in terms of effects from something like King Kong versus Godzilla. And I also enjoyed the first part of the political portion of it, where they were like, we got to keep the secret. But then because this submarine incident occurs, they realize they can't do that anymore. And it kind of breaks open this international relationship. and how that's all going to go. So like I was kind of digging it. The love story I could have maybe done without. It was funny because I was reading that she was actually like the hot actress at the time. She was like in everything and kind of was going to be the next big thing in Japan. I found that kind of funny. I found her like kind of a little bit bland, just like her acting style, very monotone. So it's funny that she was like a huge actress in Japan at the time. But otherwise, like as it went on, it almost became comical just what Godzilla was doing. Is like just stumbling around a city. At one point, just like fell into a building and fell asleep for a while. Like they almost had to be like, everything can't be Godzilla. We can't have this fight go on for so long. So I guess we'll have Godzilla almost die and then like fall into this building. And everyone's sitting there being like, is Godzilla dead? And everyone's like, no, it just like passed out. It's like, well, is he going to wake up? And they're like, yeah, Godzilla will wake up eventually. It's like, what a weird part of this movie. And then he just like kind of walks into a volcano at the end. So I feel like it really devolved at the end where they were trying to get him into this volcano. And you could almost see Godzilla look into the volcano and think to himself, I'm going to jump into this volcano, and being like, yes, and then jump into the volcano and die. Or not die, but get buried or whatever. So, but I still enjoyed it. Thought it looked good. Kind of fun, very different, much more updated vibe to it than some of the older ones. And so I am going to come in at same to Kyle, 6.5.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll go. I guess I'm just gonna get out. I gotta come forward when Zach talked about doing this month. I was really excited because I never really watched them, and I was hoping to really enjoy them. And so far, these two I just have not enjoyed. I like this one even less than the first one we watched, the King Kong versus Godzilla. I just felt it just, for some reason, it just wasn't striking me in the right way. Sub action was okay. I mean, I felt like they focused on that. It was 30 years after the first movie we watched, or 20, so it looked a little bit more modern and a little bit better. But other than that, I just found myself not caring about watching the movie. The ending was just kind of very plain to me. I wasn't too terribly excited about what happened. There was no wow factor or moment for me. I'm gonna have to come in and give it a 4. I just was not a fan of it.
Oh, Alex.
I know. I'm bringing these down. I know.
You're bringing these down hard.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Ben gave the last one a 4. Maybe he might have gave this one like a 3. I don't know.
Oh,
we don't know what he did.
We'll never know. We'll never know.
Okay. All right. Well, listeners, if you listen to the interview, you already heard all my thoughts on the movie and my rating, but I'll say it again. So I loved this movie. This is one of my more favorite Godzilla movies because of the darker tone to it. It's kind of like that King Kong versus Godzilla. I mean, that was, more comical, more comedic. And then the rest of the Showa films, I mean, were just kind of more comedic and dancey and more oddball, goofball Godzilla movies. This is the one that really took it back to a darker tone and a darker just feel of the movie. Never really happy. So I really liked it. I loved it. I loved the effects. I'm coming in hot on this one, guys. A 9.
Oh man.
I really do like this movie.
So do you think, and just to ask you, so do you think as a result of this film and kind of bring it back to the darker, that you like the subsequent films? Because there's a few in this series, right?
Yes. So this is the beginning of the Heisei era. This is the first one, and then that goes until I believe 95.
And do they keep that kind of darker tone?
Yes. All the movies in the Heisei era are chronological. They follow each other. So it's kind of like one large story. So the next movie starts off, Godzilla. Which one is the next one? Is it King Ghidorah? I can't remember, but starts off
it's a weird one. It starts with a B. It's like a
plant.
plant.
The plant one. Yep.
Right.
Biolante. So it takes place after, Godzilla's in the volcano still and everything. So, and it is all darker, and I think some of those early 90s ones are probably more of what people were thinking of. So hopefully,
I don't know, because when I never really watched too many of them. I was pleasantly surprised. I did like the darker tone, and I liked the look of it. So I think if I was going to check out more of them, I'd probably follow this one afterwards. But the thing I remember about Godzilla, or what I from like childhood and stuff like that, was that he was kind of a good guy, and that was more of the Showa thing, right? Like later, he became kind of like the protector of Tokyo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it gets really goofy towards the end of Showa.
Oh yeah, like the goofy baby Godzilla.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they have like a couple of those.
Right.
And I guess, we should have asked. We should have asked TitanGoji, Baby Godzilla, Baby Yoda. Who are you going with?
Who wins?
Who wins? Yeah. Yes, who wins? Did any of you guys watch the original, like Japanese version Gojira?
No.
Yes.
I have before, but not too recently.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Same with Jamie. I haven't watched it recently.
Because I just watched that one very recently, and that one also has a much darker tone, very similar to this. And it is like that's kind of what you want, I feel like, in a monster movie, right? You want to be like, ooh, this could be scary.
Yeah, I mean, one part, I talked about it a lot in the interview, but the one part in this movie that I really, really liked was when they started doing those quick cuts to like the people escaping on foot and in the subway. And it just made it like, it showed more of the fear, right? It showed more of the impact that Godzilla was having.
I do always find that humorous. It happens a lot in disaster films where like some major event will occur, like Godzilla is heading towards Tokyo Bay and stuff like that. Or like, I think there was some disaster movie where there was a terrorist attack in like a city. And then like hours later, it'll be like Godzilla's walking through Tokyo and all of a sudden picks up a train and there's just people commuting home from work. And it's like, what are you doing commuting home from work? Godzilla was coming towards Tokyo hours ago. And they're all just sitting on this subway train being like, la, 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 la. Until that moment that they have to be scared.
Well, maybe that says something about the culture, Jamie, because maybe they're more scared of not being able to afford their housing.
My God.
Or food for their families.
That is terrifying.
Do we want to do want to do love it or hate it?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. What do we want to hear first?
Hate it.
You want to do hate it first? Okay.
I hate it. This is from Orangey 2 Dope, May 10th, 2017.
Okay.
1 out of 10.
Ooh.
I was really hoping that the decade in between Godzilla movies would mean that this might be a half-decent flick, but it's not. I've accepted that this series has no continuity. I hate it, but I have accepted it. This one pushes the limit by acting like Godzilla hasn't been seen since the first movie. People who like these movies always say things like they were reinventing the brand, blah, blah, blah. Why reinvent something that didn't work 15 times? They had the nerve to bring back Raymond Burr as the same character he played in the original, well, the American version. Not only does it not make any sense, but the character is different now. Different in a bad way. He's an expert on Godzilla from seeing him one day 30 years ago. Ugh. So Godzilla attacks and they do so much stupid stuff to try to kill him. I fear this may be the biggest lack of a plot Godzilla has seen so far. And that's saying a lot. This is my last Godzilla movie. I have seen enough. ...
Wow.
Wow. He hated it more than I did.
He really hated it.
And missed the point a little bit.
He missed the huge point of like it being a reboot. He literally is complaining about it's like there's only been one Godzilla movie the whole time. I mean, that's what it is.
And people do this all
doing away with all that other stuff. Say, forget about that. We're
they
gonna
do that
our
all the
own
time.
thing.
Like Halloween did it twice. Not even once. They did it twice.
Yeah. But he hated it. That guy's not happy with this.
No.
No, not at
So
all.
now, he did bring up something though that I don't think we really had to deal with because at least I didn't. I watched the original Japanese version. Did anybody watch the American version?
Of this one?
Whichever one
Yeah.
had the...
No, we didn't watch the American.
If Raymond
Yeah, I don't
Burr
think
was
so,
in it,
yeah.
that's American one.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
you'd kind of know from that point. Also, if you saw any Dr. Pepper, apparently that's in that.
Tons of Dr. Pepper. Tons.
Not a sponsor. Not on this podcast. In the movie.
Yeah.
Yikes.
All right, let's get that. Love it.
I love it. This is Skaton 15, February 2004. Godzilla 1984 stands out as one of the best and most politically imbued Godzilla films ever made and deserves more credit for what it accomplished. Godzilla 1984 single-handedly revitalized the Godzilla franchise into the machine it is today and ushered in a new concept for what the monster could be. Gone are the kitty children and super robots, the monster melees and monster dancing. Here is a return to what Godzilla truly is, an unstoppable force of nature. The original Japanese version is far superior to this butchered American cut, and their political agenda is far more subtle than the Americans' tactless editing of the Russian nuclear launch sequence. Fans would do well to view the original as it retains the history and dignity of the first Godzilla film. 10 out of 10.
So he likes the uncut version. The uncut Godzilla. So I got out of that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's what he likes. Because they did change something in the American version. A big part.
I know. I have that in the trivia.
Oh, you do? All right. I'll let you take it.
Yeah, because I don't know what it is. I'm curious because I don't think I've seen the American one.
Well, let's, I guess, jump over to Trivia Zone.
I think we can, yeah. So, as we've mentioned, this serves as a reboot and a direct sequel to the first film, effectively ignores all of the Showa-era films other than the original, and builds from there on the return of Godzilla and the darker tones of that film. Godzilla was increased in size for the film, specifically because Tokyo's buildings had gotten taller since originally introduced, so they had to make him bigger, or else he would have looked tiny next to those big old buildings. It was called Godzilla 1985 in the United States after being picked up for release. As we've mentioned, it was heavily edited to include Raymond Burr reprising his role from the American version of the original Godzilla film. So he, just like in that one, they filmed new scenes with him. The entire American filming took a total of 3 days to complete, and all of Raymond Burr's scenes, by contract, were done in a single day. He also was credited with nixing the idea of them making it a comedy with Leslie Nielsen co-starring with them. That's what I read online. The other things that they changed were the inclusion or insertion of numerous Dr. Pepper product placements, which is understandable, considering whenever I am like working on an award-winning podcast, I also turn my taste buds to a refreshing Dr. Pepper. It's Dr. Pepper. The most interesting rewrite in the script was a change to make it so the Soviet Union colonel deliberately launched the nuclear missile rather than die trying to stop it. So he goes in and just like launches it. This was apparently done because obviously it was a Cold War at the time, and New Line management wanted the Soviets to be the villains. And people did not appreciate that. Seems like I would say a tasteless, random, unnecessary change to a movie just to be like, fuck you to the Soviets.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy.
And then Watch Mojo, a top 10 site, put this at number 8 all time on their list of Godzilla films. However, the American release was not well received. Actress Yasuko Sawaguchi, she was picked to play Naoko Akamura, the film's heroine, on the basis of being chosen as the Toho Cinderella. And Zach, you can help me. Toho Cinderella, that's a thing? Do you know anything about this?
Toho Cinderella?
That's what it was called online. She was the new Toho Cinderella.
I do not know. But it looks like 10. I mean, just back in 2011, a 10-year-old won Toho Cinderella. So
yeah. I don't know. So she was doing that. So like she had just made her debut in Karate Cop 3, Song of the Sea. Obviously sounds great. Hopefully there's a submarine in that sea and we can watch it.
Hopefully.
And so this was her second film in kind of doing that as part of the new Toho Cinderella. Justice King Kong versus Godzilla was the last Godzilla film to get a release on DVD in its original Japanese form. This was actually the last Godzilla film to get a DVD release of any kind. So it wasn't until 2006 that even the American version of this was released to DVD. And that was because it kind of conflicted with who owned the rights to the New Line catalog, since New Line had been bought by Turner back not even that long after this movie was made. So they had the rights. It kind of shifted around for a while after that. And so no one really knew who had the rights to make the DVD. Veteran actor Akihiko Harada, who portrayed Dr. Serizawa in the original Godzilla, was originally slated to play Dr. Hayashida, even listed on early casting lists, but died of lung cancer before filming started. This left fellow veteran Yasuki Natsuki Yasuke Natsuki to fill in for him. Days before his passing, Hirata expressed a strong interest to have at least a small cameo, but sadly did not make it. So, in casting what ifs, we're going to look back on 2019 to those we've lost who have starred in actual submarine films that we've watched for this podcast, which seems amazing that we have a bunch of them. But who would have done well in this film? How about Luke Perry from Silent Venom? Luke Perry passed away. 2019.
I mean, I think he could be in it, at least somewhere.
Yeah, I think like an American version of it. I think he would have been the reporter because he gets the girl, and he's Luke Perry.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so.
What about Rip Torn? We know him from Down Periscope. And he died last year.
Now, Rip Torn would have been
It
the American general ready to nuke Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That would've been
probably.
cool to see him, yeah.
Definitely fits him. What about Rutger Hauer? He was in Hostile Waters and passed away last year.
Did he really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's your Russian sub-captain, right?
I mean, I guess. I feel like he deserves a bigger role. He's Rutger Hauer. So,
Okay.
I mean, I could see
you
him
want
as
him to be the Russian diplomat then?
I don't know. Maybe he's the premier of Japan.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice, right?
It is.
What about Peter Fonda from Escape from L.A.? He passed away last year.
Oh. Make him a captain.
There we go.
You want to be the captain? Why not the scientist? He's like one of the main characters. No. What about David Hedison? He was in The Enemy Below and Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea TV series. I don't know who this person is. I just know that in his obituary, it said, it was said, David Hedison, and then underneath his name, it said, became famous for portraying a submarine captain.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Enough said
whoa.
right
And then I
there.
saw that he was in that, and he was in Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, the TV series, which we haven't done an episode on. But I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing.
Well, I guess we got to throw him in there, right?
Yeah.
None of us know who he is, but he's famous for literally the podcast that we have dedicated our lives to.
Right. So we'll throw him somewhere. He can be somewhere. And then Ed Harris, he's still alive. So I didn't want to concern you guys. I was afraid for a second to even put this in here because I was afraid you'd gasp in shock and perhaps pass away yourselves when I mentioned that Ed Harris. But no, he's still alive. But he can stop his heart whenever he wants through the power of his mind.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And
Like
the
that
longest
James Bond film?
Kind of, yeah. And the longest he's ever gone is 5 minutes. He played a prank on Nick Cage on the set of The Rock. And to this day, Nick Cage still says it's the funniest prank he's ever been a part of.
Really?
Yeah, that's what he says. That's on an interview.
I hope that's true.
So what about Ed Harris?
Oh, yeah. Ed's in. Ed is manning the Godzilla suit.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm thinking.
But he doesn't wear the helmet.
Yeah, he just he doesn't wear the Godzilla head. Just Ed Harris.
Yep, I'm down for that.
I do believe he could have probably snagged the Toho Princess or Toho Cinderella title and maybe got his way in there, but that's just my confidence in Ed Harris. All right,
Well,
and then
you
we'll
got to be confident in him.
Yeah.
You know?
And then we'll finish up with a little Phantom Zone.
Engage the Phantom.
Phantom's engaged, sir.
So the geologist in this was someone I had used before to get to Atragon. So he was, we were going from Lorelei. He was in Lorelei, Witch of the Sea, XXX, and he was the mineralogist in this, but also in Atragon. And so we can go from there. We were able to go through that to Hiroshi Kiwazumi, jump from Atragon to Latitude Zero. From there, we went in this crazy long cycle through American films like Ice Station Zebra. Eventually, we got to Teru Shimada, which makes some sense. But I swear to God, if I wrote this one out, it'd be like 26 films.
Really?
Oh yeah, it goes on forever.
Well, you've got a job then for next time. Huh?
Well, every time I went to a new Google Doc, it just said, and we've done this before for this other film. And then I jumped to that one. And it was like, oh yeah, and we've done this before for this other film. And it just kept on going. It was like a Russian nesting doll.
I hope that
couldn't
one
find the
day
end
when
of
I
it.
walk into your basement or something, you've got like one of those maps up on the wall with all these strings all connecting to these different sub-movies, and it's just Teru Shimada just in the center of the entire web.
That's what you hope?
That's what I hope for. You know, gives
Okay.
me something to look forward to.
But yeah. Teru Shimada seems obvious that most I would have gotten there eventually.
You would.
Yeah.
It can always be done, except for when it can't for
the porno
very specific movies. So something that you'd actually mentioned before, and I know we talked about this with the editing of the American film. I've got the DVD right in front of me, and it's funny because on the back they slapped that version right in the face. It says, unfortunately for North American audiences, this direct sequel to the 1954 feature film has previously only been available in a highly edited version that cut over 20 minutes of original footage and effects, changed key plot points, and altered the dark dramatic tone and narrative by inserting additional scenes and humor in an attempt to Americanize the film. Right on the back of it. So
It's
they're
like an apology?
wow. It's basically like, don't get that other crap, get this one, because that other one sucks. But that's besides the point, right?
Beyond the gate of the sheep.
Ooh.
As they say.
That is what they say. Alex, you're from a herding family, right? Isn't that what you guys say?
It's similar to that, but it's mostly about follow the sheep, you know?
Ah.
Mm-hmm. Be a sheep.
So you're be a sheep. So you're, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Normally you're supposed to be a leader, but then you're following the followers.
Well, if you look at sheep, they just really go through the gate. They don't know where the fencing is, you know? They're kind of afraid of dogs. You could just have them running around forever. You could just put a gate up with no fence, and they'll still just go to the gate, you know? They're that dumb.
Sheep.
I don't know where this is going, but I like it.
Do you think androids dream of electric sheep?
Personally?
Yes. Or professionally?
I'm gonna have to say no.
Okay.
No, they're dreaming of something else.
Alrighty, whatever. I don't even know what's going on now.
It's kaiju. Worldwide.
Okay, it's time for Kaiju Worldwide, and I know last week did King Kong kind of went off the rails a little bit. It was a pretty lengthy segment. I'm going to keep this one a little bit shorter this week, but I don't want to do any disservice to this kaiju, but they're not the reason we're here. Godzilla's the reason we're here. So, this is a kaiju that most of you, if you've ever seen Godzilla, even if you haven't, I'm sure you've probably heard of, because you're like, why? Why would they make that a giant monster? And you may already know who I'm talking about. If you've ever thought moths were scary, wait till you see a giant one with Mothra. Mothra was first introduced to us in 1961 in its own feature film, Mothra. And something that's kind of interesting that I was able to find, there's an article from the website Nerdist written by Kyle Anderson titled Everything You Need to Know About Mothra, written in July 24th, 2018. Women weren't particularly thrilled over in Japan with the Godzilla movies because Godzilla was dying at the end of every movie, and they wanted a monster that would live on. And so Toho answered the call, and Mothra rarely dies in any of her movies. However, she can also be reborn as a larva, so that's something that maybe they were able to get some appeal from women moviegoers, because they said that was one of the largest demographics in the Japanese film viewing or theater going experience. So another thing that's different about Mothra, she's living all the time. She is not destructive and have no regard for human life like most of the other monsters that we're seeing here do. You know, tearing down buildings, lighting everybody on fire, picking up trains, eating everybody like a candy bar. She is actually a protector, so she really gets fired up if you come to her island and screw with her people. Much like, well, King Kong wasn't really protecting them. Well, maybe he was protecting them from the octopus, but, you know, wants to protect their people. She's also often seen with a couple traveling companions, fairy twins, and they ride along and just accompany her, do whatever they need to do. They were first played by two twin sisters from Japan from the musical duo The Peanuts. And the film company thought that this would be a good opportunity to get American audiences involved because the Peanuts had some popularity in America. And they were in multiple Mothra movies and, you know, did a few songs for them. So that's kind of cool, kind of fun. And the Peanuts were actually active from 1958 to 1975. And according to Wikipedia, Mothra is Toho's second most popular monster behind, you guessed it, Godzilla. And Mothra has appeared in 16 films, 3 television series, and 18 video games, whether being in the game itself or being referenced in the game, dating to games all the way back to 1988. And I said I was going to keep this one shorter. Don't want to do any disjustice to this super famous monster. But if you haven't seen any of the films with Mothra, go check them out. But if you haven't seen any of the ones with Godzilla, I want to check those ones out first. All right, Alex, what do you got?
You guys think I was actually looking up news?
All right. Well, honestly, I just only found really one good article if you really want to know about it. And it's back to the Danish submarine killer that we've been covering since like 2017.
Yeah, it's been forever.
Wait, that guy's still around? They didn't like put him.
Oh yeah, no, he got a life sentence. He got a life sentence, and turns out in December at the end of 2019, he actually got married from the jail cell. And, yep, he married some Russian artist. Let me see if I could find her name here. Probably should have read this article a little bit better. But anyway.
Our news correspondent, ladies and gentlemen.
But yeah, it turns out she's actually in... she's in Europe, actually, because she's seeking political asylum from Russia because she was working at a news agency that got banned. So she had to flee her life and is living in Finland right now.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And out of everybody she could have met or married, she found the killer and they just got married. So
that is insane.
Yeah.
I always wonder how that stuff happens, man.
This story,
I have no idea.
Because it's been like 2 years, like Alex said. This is going to be a podcast one. Just that will be a podcast or a movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's
we could do that. We could enact the relationship. You know, it'd be really great.
I'll be the girl.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, okay. All right, casting done.
Yeah. So
like a Miss Doubtfire situation.
I just can't. I just don't understand it. It seems just so fake, you know? Just everything about
Alex.
it. Where he tried to say that he didn't kill the lady and then did, or he admitted that she died while on a submarine. Instead of just taking her back to land, he decides to behead her and cut off her arms and legs and throw parts into the ocean. And now this Russian lady was like, okay, well, I'll marry him anyways.
Yeah, so, like what in the hell's going on with her?
Yeah, I have no idea. So I don't know. doesn't really have anything to do with the submarine, I guess, the submarine news, but that's something we've been following for quite some time.
Well,
and
it is interesting.
Last but not least, here's a little fun fact for you guys. Yellow Submarine by the Beatles came out 51 years ago.
Whoa.
As of like yesterday or something like that.
Somehow we haven't watched that one yet.
Yeah, kind of strange.
I think we would have.
It should be number 100 or something.
That's when we're on our experimenting with hallucinogenic cycle.
Out in the wilderness.
Watching that.
Colors in the title cycle.
Is that when we go back and rewatch every movie we've already done, but this time on drugs?
Yeah, exactly.
I like Jamie's idea. Colors in the movie title.
Any of them. I just did a quick search. There was something that may be of interest to you guys. I don't know. It's from the Toledo Blade.
Oh,
I don't know if that's what
shit.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we're interested. Let's hear it.
Yeah, so the Toledan who commanded the USS Toledo submarine for more than 2 years is now officially in charge of the entire submarine squadron in the Pacific. Captain Michael Majewski relieved Captain Paul Davis as Commodore of Submarine Squadron 7 during a change of command ceremony Tuesday at Joint Base Pearl Harbor, Hickam, in Hawaii. And he is from none other than Toledo.
Wow.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's close to home.
He graduated Start High School in 1991 and went straight to the U.S. Naval Academy. So how about that?
Love
there you go. Alex, do you think you and I ever ran into him when we were living in Toledo?
Probably.
Well, you lived right in Toledo. I was in Maumee, right on the cusp.
Yeah. I mean, we lived like a mile and a half away.
I know, that's true.
Yeah, I mean...
Very interesting.
I don't want to say I know him, but he looks familiar. But
yeah, get an interview.
Yeah. I'll reach out to him. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, reach out to him. Say, like, from a fellow... Well, and you just make sure you're clear. Like, you didn't live in Toledo. You were like a mile and a half away. But that you want to get an interview. Me know?
Oh.
I will. Why not?
Man's got to eat.
Yep.
You're going to lead off with, hey, we're going to pay you to do an interview, and then just never follow through on that. All right. Zach.
What?
Is it time?
Oh, this is it?
I don't know.
What the hell is even that?
You got the daddy chill? You got
Yeah.
daddy chill?
I do. Was the music gonna start? Zach Facts, it's Zach Facts. When you're going down, get some Zach Facts when you're going down.
Daddy, chill.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Zach Facts for Godzilla 1984/5. We got 3 facts tonight, but are you guys ready to hear them? I mean, at this point, we might be, what are we pushing? 2.5 hours? So.
Yeah, we're getting close.
We better wrap this up. Okay. 3 facts for you. Fact number 1. Originally titled Godzilla 1986, but when the movie was released in 1985, they changed it.
Interesting.
Wow. That's a bold move.
Mm-hmm.
They've got it all planned out. Somebody's like, let's just push it out there early.
Fact number 2. After this film was released, pet lizards increased by a lot.
Because they wanted their Godzilla?
Not the purchase of them, just the number of pet lizards.
That's just...
People at home watching Godzilla. What's that banging around in the terrarium over there?
Fact number 3. Raymond Burr was going to be in the new Godzilla King of the Monsters, but unexpectedly passed away in 1992.
Wow. It's unfortunate.
Wow.
Yeah. They were worried about that?
Yeah. Missed about like 16, 17 years.
Wait, 16, 17 years?
He died in 1992.
Wouldn't that be like
22, right? 27.
Don't you worry, Zach. Don't worry, Zach. You're good looking. You don't have to worry about smarts or brains or anything.
Shut up.
Thank you for listening to Submersion. Don't forget to subscribe for new episodes every Thursday. If you like what you heard, please leave us a rating wherever you listen. Want to interact with us? Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We also love to get messages from all of you. If you have a suggestion, a comment, or just anything you'd like to share, please email us at macestudios@gmail.com.